All right. So my name is Renee Staten, and I wanted to welcome everyone to this District 5 primary candidate forum tonight. And I wanted to thank all of the candidates who are here tonight. And I also wanted to thank our moderators, Erica Barnett, raise your hand.
Hello.
And Sarah Sense Wilson. I want to introduce Erica. Erica is the editor and publisher of Publicola, an online publication focusing on news and politics in Seattle. She co-founded Publicola in 2009 after writing for magazines and alternative weekly newspapers in Seattle and Austin, Texas for more than a decade. She also co-hosts a podcast about Seattle politics called Seattle Nice, and her memoir, Quitter, was published by Viking in 2020. Sarah Sense Wilson, Sarah, is Oglala Lakota, is a lifelong multi-generational resident of D5. Sarah is co-founder and chair of the Urban Native Education Alliance, UNIA. UNIA is a grassroots, native-led, student-centered, volunteer-based organization supporting Seattle area Indigenous youth. Sarah is committed to strengthening our urban Native community through tireless advocacy, organizing, and networking within both the Native community and the greater King County area. And I'm now going to hand the reins over to Erica and Sarah, who are going to tell you more about the forum tonight.
Hi, so I will just take over briefly. This is going to be an 11-question forum, and we're going to give the candidates between a minute to a minute and a half to answer each of these questions. We're going to have one lightning round, and I want to just go ahead and jump right into the questions so we can get this ball rolling. And let me, I'm going to vamp for a second while I pull up the questions, which somehow have disappeared. Here we go. Okay, the first question is just, we'd love to hear you introduce yourselves and say why people should vote for you. And you have 90 seconds, and there's going to be a timer, which is Day, who's in the orange shirt waving his hand. So he will let you know when your time is up. And we're going to start with candidate Boegart Bibby.
Hello, I'm Boegart Bibby, and I feel that you should vote for me because I offer a unique skill set to address towards our city problems, having worked with information technology for over a decade. I also have experience and know what it's like to raise a family and run your own business in Seattle. And I offer some creative ideas to our city's challenges, which I feel would benefit the city, not just in our district, but at every district. So I'm hoping to change the conversation a little bit. I'm hoping to open people's ideas and awareness to different ways of doing stuff. And especially, I want everyone to focus on this aspect of the job. You are representing your neighbors. And the most important thing about representing your neighbors is making sure that what the majority of your neighbors want done is what you're doing. And that is why I encourage all the candidates to take a pledge to every 3 months, whoever gets this job, to report what you've been doing, report on the budget, and send out a survey to everybody so that they can find out, you can find out what everybody wants you to do and self-direct. I feel this is a way of raising the bar for representational democracy. And I feel no matter who has this position, as long as they're doing that and engaging and giving everybody a voice every 3 months on what's going on, what they're trying to do to fix it and how to course correct, I think it's going to be a good district.
Great. Thank you. And as y'all can hopefully see, Day is holding up a sign that says 10 seconds when you have 10 seconds, and the rest of the time that's going to be a green sign. And I assume there's a red one that will also come out. So next up is Lucca Murdoch-Howard.
Hello, my name is Lucca Murdoch-Howard, and I bring a unique perspective to District 5 and the Seattle City Council because I'm young, I'm a college student, I'm 18 years old. I go to school at North Seattle in District 5, and I'm connected to the issues in a way that a lot of the other candidates that are running, just not even in District 5, just across the city, can't bring. I will never be able to buy a house in Seattle. I can't rent in Seattle, and so I have more of a initiative to actually solve these problems, because if I can't solve these problems, then I will just not be able to stay in Seattle at all. And I also bring the youth voice to the council. I might be one of the only Gen Z people running for this in this race across the city, and I'll bring the Gen Z perspective of climate justice and solutions for education cost, housing cost, and hopefully healthcare cost. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Next up is Nilu Jenks.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Nilu. Thank you for organizing and hosting this event. I'm excited to be here, and really, I was asked to run because my community knows me and knows how much I care and how hard I work. I think that's reflected in the Democracy Voucher Program, my qualifying 5 days, and the broad support I've received from community members, unions, and other progressive organizations. I am a parent of school-aged children. I went through the pandemic as a parent and understand how challenging that was. I really care about people. Hosting coffee hours and office hours and town halls is something that I'm really excited to do. And I also am somebody that just works hard and gets things done. After the pandemic, after the Parkland shootings, organized our nation's largest gun buyback, and it became a county level program. We had a mass shooting in front of our house and worked with my community to get a pocket park established as a living memorial. And after crashes in our yard on Sandpoint Way, started working to organize my community to see what we can do for sidewalks. And frankly, not getting a response from the city is one of the reasons that I'm running. It's really hard to get our needs met, and I'm prepared to work hard to do all the things we need to do. Climate change is really a huge reason I said yes to this job. We need a lot more housing. It's not okay for people to be living on the streets. I'd love to see a right to shelter move, and also get us the behavioral health response teams we need. So I hope I can earn your support. Please reach out if you have any questions.
Thanks. Next is Shane Macomber.
Hi, everybody. My name is Shane Macomber. I'm running for Seattle City Council up here in District 5. I believe I've demonstrated during the course of my campaign that my background in mental health support, as well as my background in real estate, shows that I have a unique perspective into the ways that the city is actively working against itself in its effort to provide support for those that are in need, those who are in crisis. And also, my background also helps me identify our need for density in the most responsible ways that we can do it, so that everyone gets the best economic and cultural opportunities to thrive in the neighborhoods that are the best fit for them. With all of those details, recognizing that as we develop, if we do it in tandem with expanding our transit system, we can increase the amount that people are able to afford to live where they work, have access to transit that means they are not dependent on cars, and give everybody a fantastic opportunity to really strive and feel like they are seen and welcomed here in Seattle. I look forward to speaking with you more, and I hope that I can get your vote. Thank you.
Thanks. Next is Cathy Moore.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. My name is Cathy Moore, and today the Seattle Times endorsed me because they know I'll hit the ground running to address Seattle's urgent public safety, homelessness, and housing affordability needs. I'm a former judge, public defender, longtime community volunteer, co-owner of a small family business, and a mother of 3 Seattle public school graduates. I was raised by a single mom who taught in our community colleges for 25 years and who inspired my career in public service from the Peace Corps through my campaign today. While serving as a judge, I saw daily what happens when systems are broken and fail to invest in our people, institutions, and communities. We must address the root causes of our challenges as a city. We must be proactive, not reactive, and that means upstream investments and workable solutions. As to public safety, I support getting our police numbers back to pre-COVID levels, as well as creating civilian alternative response programs. We must provide more behavioral health care and more substance use treatments. To tackle homelessness, I want to break down red tape and barriers to housing and assistance. We need 24/7 access to shelters. We need more tiny homes, safe lots, and collaboration with faith communities. And making our city affordable for all is critical. We need to expand sustainable housing options in every neighborhood and provide affordability. Successfully addressing these challenges and more will require council members focused on collaboration and solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is ChrisTiana ObeySumner.
Thank you for having me. I'm running to promote, my name is ChrisTiana ObeySumner. I'm running to promote upstream solutions that deliver effective, collective, and sustainable results. I'm determined to help Mentor's policy systems to be more interconnected. And if elected, I will ensure that city government centers and amplifies the needs and voices of the community. Together, we will make sure Seattle works better for all people in our city, from direct social service, direct social and housing service work, to social equity and policy advocacy consulting. I've advocated alongside thousands of community members and helped bring transformative change over 250 organizations and government agencies throughout my career. To find sustainable solutions to persistent problems, we must start with policies and systems that are at the root causes of inequity, meaning enacting pragmatic policies and sustainable solutions for accessible and affordable housing, increased wage parity, and improved labor and working conditions, achieving multiple pathways towards shared goals around community safety, multimodal transportation systems focused on pedestrian safety, as well as fixing infrastructure gaps in our city, disability justice, and environmental justice. Environmental justice in particular, you can know as I am endorsed by the Green Party, Seattle and Washington, ATU Local 587, former Councilmember Larry Gossett, Carrie Moon, and other amazing community leaders. I'm also second in the district to qualify and the second highest fundraiser, not just funding. So we can find collective, effective, and sustainable policy solutions that can get to the heart of the issues. And I humbly ask for your consideration and your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. Next up is Ty Reed.
Thank you, Erica. My name is Ty Reed. I use she, her pronouns, and I am running to be your next District 5 council member. A lot of people might know me as the co-founder and co-chair of the House Our Neighbors Coalition that put social housing on the ballot in February and won social housing in February. I am the only person here with a proven record of a people-driven initiative at the city level that is going to be a national model for what we need to be doing to solve our homelessness crisis. I'm the only person here today who has been deeply invested in the movement to stop the sweeps completely and focus on services that folks actually need, like mobile services for hygiene, for bathrooms, for showers, for laundry, being able to meet their caseworkers, being able to use phones. I am someone who's been deeply invested in that work for over 3 years now. I have deep relationships with folks who have been unhoused in the north end of Seattle for a while now, and I am invested in stopping the sweeps, not just legislatively, but as a community organizer. I am running for office, and I think you should vote for me because not only will you see that a lot of us actually agree on the policies, what you'll see is a lot of compromise. I am unwilling to compromise when it comes to social justice, when it comes to stopping the sweeps, when it comes to funding affordable housing. A lot of people, love me or hate me, will identify that I'm a fighter, and I have never hesitated to speak truth to power. I am willing to do what's necessary and what's unpopular when it comes to the status quo, but I will defend D5 and I will make sure that we have the services that we need. Thank you.
Thanks. Next up is Justin Simmons.
Welcome, friends and neighbors. I want to thank the forum organizers, each of whom I know, for giving me the opportunity to chat with you all. My name is Justin Simmons, and I'm a lifelong resident of District 5, where I've been an active volunteer for over 20 years and am now raising my own family. I was the first candidate to file in this race, and I'm running because I love our city. Our city is in crisis, and I have the skills, track record, relationships, and energy needed to help. My campaign priorities are public safety, homelessness, affordable housing for all, protecting businesses, public spaces, the environment, and the unique character of Seattle and its neighborhoods, and accessibility, transparency, and accountability from public servants and law enforcement. In District 5, I served 6 years on the Broadview Community Council as a creek steward for Broadview Creek. I worked on the revitalization of Linden Avenue with Mayor McGinn and council members, served on the executive board of the 46th District Democrats for many years, and as an elected precinct committee officer for 14 years. I have served as president, four-term president of the Metropolitan Democratic Club of Seattle, as president of the UW Alumni Association's Multicultural Alumni Partnership, and as president of the Church Council of Greater Seattle, where I oversaw direct service programs relating to homelessness and transitional housing. I've worked for the UW Alumni Association, the United Nations Association, and the United Way of King County as a loan executive. I'm proud to be endorsed by
Rebecca's
Washington.
time.
Okay.
Thank you. And has Rebecca joined us, or is she still not on?
She's not joined.
Okay, great. Thanks. Hand it over to Sarah.
All right, thank you so much. And Han Ampetu Washte Matakiapi. I wanted to start by first acknowledging that we are on the homelands of the Duwamish, the Suquamish, the Tulalip, the Snoqualmie, the Muckleshoot tribes. I think it's important that we acknowledge that, as you are all looking to be public servants, and starting off on the right foot with acknowledging that. The question that I have for each of you, and it will be only a 60-second response, is for the people who are contemplating leaving Seattle, what would you say to them about why they should stay? And we will start with Nilu Jenks.
I moved to Seattle in 2007. My children were born here, and it has been a wonderful city. I moved to California for a little bit to get help from family when they were young, and we chose to move back. Seattle is a wonderful place, a lot of things to do, incredible greenery. The diversity is growing, especially in District 5, and something that I really enjoy. We have a lot of access to foods and opportunities, but it's also a city that cares. We voted on the crisis levy, we voted on social housing. So many people I know, including myself, knocked for that. And we need people to stay here and be invested and make sure that we have a city council that we push to get us the results that we want to see. Also, for climate change, this is one of the best areas of the world to be in, and we need to make it a welcoming place for everyone and stay and make sure that we're here to receive them. So I'm hoping people will stay and not choose to leave, and so we can get the results that we need in this beautiful part of the world. Thanks.
Thank you, Nilu. All right, Shane Macomber.
So for the people that are contemplating leaving, I recognize that there are a lot of problems that currently exist in the city, but also the thing we don't talk about as much is how many opportunities exist here in the city. We as a group are making sure that we are speaking up with our voice as loud as possible. We are standing up for labor rights. We are working towards making social housing. We are actively displaying that we are working to change the problems, and those opportunities are still going to be here as we work through all of these issues that we see in front of us. We've identified why our housing is a problem. We've identified the corporate exploitation that is occurring. And with a responsible, dedicated city council, like I believe we are electing in on this cycle, we will see those changes happen. And all of those opportunities will still be here for you. You will have economic success. You will have the culture you can be a part of. You will have a transit system that takes you anywhere you want to go. You will be in a city that wants you, and we will be one of the best places in the world to be.
Thank you, Shane. All right, Cathy Moore.
Hey, thank you very much. So most of the people who are leaving Seattle are leaving because they can no longer afford to live in Seattle. Rents are completely out of control in this city. I have been a renter since I was 18 until my mid-50s when I had 3 children. I know how one struggles when one is rent burdened. I was in a position where I had to ask my landlord for a break on the rent because my husband was undergoing cancer treatment and I wasn't working and we were struggling, and they said no. So I understand the struggles that people have with housing affordability and with difficult landlords. So what we need to do is we need to provide people assistance now. We have run out of COVID funding for rental assistance, so we need to look at our Jumpstart Fund to restart up the rental assistance programs. That money is dedicated to housing. What could be more housing than keeping people housed, which I think goes to my theme of we need to be proactive rather than reactive. We need to keep people housed before they get onto the streets. So we need to continue to look for additional funding for that purpose. Thank you.
Thank you, Cathy. ChrisTiana ObeySumner.
You know, we are living in a time where things are becoming more and more perilous, and people are more pensive. We know that there are large migrations, not just from Seattle, but also to Seattle. And the reason why is because we have been shown as someone who is sure progressive in a national sense, but there are always going to be more things that we need to do. And when we are able to actually break down some of the barriers, some of the minutia that has been creating these barriers and bottlenecks to actual progress to actual effective intersectional and collective results, we can get to a place where we can have multiple pathways towards shared goals. It's actually going to lead to the Green New Deal, having enough housing for everyone, having housing that's affordable and is accessible, and ensuring that we hold our city accountable to actually being a space that not only we all will stay, but people will come.
All right, thank you. Ty Reed.
Thanks. As someone who has, sworn to live and die in Seattle because I swear to God they will not be able to get rid of me, what I would say to someone contemplating leaving is, depending on where you're going, the problems facing Seattle are not unique at all. They are universal, especially if you're talking about housing affordability, quality of life decreasing. These are things that are affecting places across the country. So I would like to tell people, Seattle's advantage at this point is that we at least have a reputation of progressivism to hold us accountable to somewhat, right? I think we've fallen behind a lot on that reputation, but here versus other places I've been, the bar is set a little bit higher. And so if you're going to see a change in any part of the country, it's going to happen here, right? We have socialists here who are outright saying that. We have a few, better tenant protections that you see in other countries. We do have better wage protections and worker protections that you see in other places. So I would tell someone that, you know what, I struggle alongside you. I'm a renter who is damn near about to be pushed out, but this is the place where we should be fighting on the forefront of working class struggles.
Thank you so much, Ty. All right, Justin Simmons.
Well, I would I would try to encourage folks to not give up on us just yet, if they can avoid it. We have a mayor who I think is outstanding, the best mayor we've had in at least a generation, who is working hard on issues of homelessness, affordable housing, revitalizing downtown and individual neighborhoods. And in my view, the functioning of the council in recent years has been impaired to a degree, with members sometimes unable to work collaboratively to effectively address issues, allocate resources, and enact responsible policy. Some members preferred ideological posturing and grandstanding to finding practical solutions to problems. And if I thought that the culture of the council was going to remain in that state, my decision to stand for election might have been more difficult. But I believe that the remaining members and the other viable candidates running today are individuals who can work with one another and also share my dedication to collegiality, responsiveness to constituents, and good governance. So in a word, I'm positive about our prospects as a city. I believe that through innovative public policy, collaboration, and hard work, we can fully reverse course, revive, and even improve the Seattle we remember from that so long.
We ran out of time, Justin. All right, so let me double check on who's next. So Boegart, Bibby.
It's true. Seattle is a city that I fell in love with when I moved here in 1999. It has wonderful arts, wonderful music, a rich cultural heritage that tries to honor, acknowledge the Native American roots and how things have evolved through technology and innovation. But we have to understand why people are leaving. And absolutely, affordability and public safety are the two biggest reasons we have people leaving Seattle. On affordability, one thing we need to do is we need to look at the way the structure is set up with foreign investments, gobbling up all the property and not doing anything with it, but sitting on it for a profit. That's why a vacancy tax is essential. We also need to make sure that we're taking some of that vacancy tax and we use it to help ameliorate the worst regressive tax system around. I would like to see the sales tax reduced, and I also want to see public safety improved as well for everyone.
All right, thank you. Rebecca.
Hi, I was here before, but y'all couldn't hear me. So if that's okay, I'll just give the little introduction so people have an idea of who I am. I'm a railway switchman, a member of the Smart TD Union, also a member of the Socialist Workers Party. I've been active for some 25 years in worker struggles, fights for women's rights, and supporting actions such as strikes and social struggles for decent work schedules, wages, and safe working conditions, such as the workers in Sunnyside, Washington, the mushroom workers fighting for a union, the Teamsters that may go on strike against UPS shortly, promoting that, the letter carriers, the Seattle Times writers, and more. Been an opponent of Washington's wars abroad. And the reason that I'm running for city council is because the crisis that's facing working people here and around the country is a result of the decades-long assault by the capitalist class against our living and working conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca, and we apologize for skipping you last time. And Lucca Murdoch, you're up next.
Hello. Again, I would like to sort of repeat that the people that I've met out canvassing who have said that they're going to be leaving, they don't say I'm leaving because I feel like my life is under threat. They don't say I'm leaving because of, you know, public safety. I don't think that's a major contributing factor unless you are like Mr. Moneybags. People are being pushed out of Seattle because council policies have not actually created more affordable housing for everybody to live in. And that's the number one thing the number one reason why people are moving out is because they can't afford their houses. I've talked to so many, you know, Norwegian grandmas who say, I'm going to be moving because my property tax is too high. I'm going to be moving because I can't pay my rent. What I would like to do is what I would do to sort of, I don't know, calm people's nerves about it is that I would say that the policies that people like, people that are, you know, involved with the administration, like Mr. Simmons, like Mrs. Moore, they're going to be changing course. Things are going to be getting better. There's going to be more investments into affordable housing, the Seattle social housing developer, and
Okay,
going down.
Lucca, our time is up. So I know you're on a roll. It was sounding, you know, you're on a roll there. I just want to let everyone know that going forward, we will be muting if we go over the time. So just keep conscientious of everybody's time and how you're, you know, responding. So passing it back over to Renee for question number 3.
Erica.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, so question number 3, which you all see in the chat, hopefully, is what are your thoughts on Seattle's tax policy? And specifically, what would you keep and what changes would you make? And we're going to start with Cathy Moore.
Great, thank you very much. So I think we can all agree that Washington has an incredibly regressive tax system and that the localities are hamstrung because of the state constitutional provisions regarding income tax. But what we can do is follow the lead of the state and implement a local capital gains tax. And I think that we should balance that with getting rid of the regressive taxes. The utility water tax I would get rid of. I would look at ways to lower or even get rid of sales taxes and property taxes have become very burdensome for people. So we've got to look at another way to deal with property tax. And one way to do that is by taxing wealth and not necessarily taxing job creation. So there's also been some discussion, I think, raised about a land value tax. I think that's an interesting idea. I would be concerned about whether it's also considered just another property tax and would be subject to the same 1% cap that we currently are struggling with now. And then I think we also need to look at our budget and make sure we're spending wisely. But I don't think we're going to be able to make up the gap just by tightening our belts. We are going to need increased revenue. Thank you.
All right, next up, we have ChrisTiana.
Hello. Well, let's just say that what we already know that's data driven. Seattle's the most regressive city tax structure in the state. Washington has the most regressive tax structure in the country. That means we're living in a city with the most tax regressive structure, and that needs to change. And one of the issues with this is that I feel that there are legislative history that people lean on to deflect away from writing this regressive tax structure and going towards progressive taxation, fostering social equity and actual sustainable growth. It is while I appreciate the city's commitment to progressive values in other areas, the existing tax system is a glaring exception. So here's the thing. We need to have increased corporate tax, especially we need to increase the jumpstart tax. We are worried about the economy with the businesses, and I understand it, but we're talking about businesses that are making $8 million and more. And as a small business owner, I'm going to tell you, there's a huge difference between that and how they can help and kick in. It needs to be based on sort of that progression of what is going to bring in the most sustainable revenue in terms of agreeing with the land use tax, agreeing with vacancy taxes, carbon taxes, especially in terms of climate justice, making sure that we are also, as we're doing this, lessening the burden on the folks who are the most intersectionally impacted in one of the most wealth inequitable cities in the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Ty.
Thank you. In terms of my thoughts on Seattle's tax policy, other than the things that have already been said, the way that I've approached talking about taxes in Seattle has been to ignore this kind of trope that people are tax exhausted and that they are tired of being taxed. I think that means people are tired of being taxed regressively, right? I would like to aggressively pursue progressive taxes, such as a capital gains tax that we saw at the state level, which brought in triple what they expected, doubling or increasing at least by 50% the jumpstart tax so that it is not being looted to fill the other holes of the budget shortfall that we're experiencing. I would support a progressive REIT tax to look at homeowner sales of over $2 to $5 million. I support working at the state level to get an income tax, because I think all of these questions that we're facing are not really going to be solved by small taxes here and there, though I do think a capital gains tax could bring in tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. I think that we just have to be honest that we need to put actual effort on the ground, which is what I excel at as an organizer, is getting on the ground efforts to pressure people at the state level to actually take action. I think there's only so much we can do at the city level to tax wealth, which we should do and pursue as far as possible. But I do think that there's going to need to be some state involvement, and state officials should be feeling the pressure from cities like Seattle, who have taxed ourselves, who are hopefully taxing ourselves at a max, that we have other alternatives. So yes, I do think a capital gains tax and all those other progressive taxes are really important. But if we're not committed to getting the constituents of Washington State to pressure their electeds, a lot of that's not going to matter. Thank you.
Thanks. And I don't know if I said this at the top, but this is a 90-second question, but y'all seem to be rolling with it. So next up is Justin.
Yes, Seattle has the most aggressive tax structure in the state, and Washington State has the most regressive tax structure in the country. And our property taxes are astronomical, and we need to do something about that here. I also support a state income tax, or more accurately, I would support a state wealth tax. I do support a capital gains tax. I support tax incentives for businesses to remain open and in place. I wouldn't necessarily get rid of some of the more regressive taxes immediately until we know what sort of new revenue we can bring in. But we definitely need to do something to get rid of those regressive taxes eventually, and lower property taxes again.
Okay, thanks. Next up is Rebecca.
Thank you. Yeah, working people need to fight for what we need and use our unions to do that. All kinds of schemes by the city government to ameliorate the capitalist crisis haven't worked and actually have made things worse. And tweaking this or that policy isn't going to solve the problems that we face. My campaign aims to help strengthen the unions and all struggles by workers and farmers to champion everything that we need to survive. And part of what we need is to defend constitutional freedoms, which are under attack today by the Democratic Party and the FBI. And my campaign also calls for dropping the charges against Trump. And it's a witch hunt that is political criminalization of political differences. And so these are the sorts of things. We need an independent working class movement and an independent labor party that can fight for the things that we need. Thank you.
Thanks. Next up is Boegart.
We do have a regressive tax system. We do have a lot of taxes, and we need to understand that this is a multi-part to it. You can't just tax wealth with identifying where that wealth is coming from. First off, we also need to reduce the wasteful spending in the city. That is why I'm an advocate for using artificial intelligence with the huge power it has to review and find the wasteful spending in the city budget and reduce the amount of city spending. The second is also identifying where the 1%, the concentration of wealth that is at the very top of the pyramid is going. And that is the private equity firms, which are using their abilities to eat companies alive and reduce living wages, and also camp on properties which is what helps drive up rent rates. And so we need to focus on taxes that target private equity, target foreign investment, target those that are, make them use it or lose it. You're going to pay us for that property or you're going to rent it out. And so all these things come together. We could tax our neighbors, but that's what we're already doing. That is why we need to focus on taxing the very top of the corporate structure. And you have to do that through ways they can't get out of it, such as vacancy taxes, such as land use taxes if they're not using it. And there are other opportunities like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Lucca.
First off, I'd like to say that a couple of the taxes that I support are capital gains taxes, vacancy taxes, but what I don't think that anybody else has brought up is that there was actually a report that went out a couple of years ago that actually investigated this very question of how we can make our tax system more progressive. I've heard from just about everybody that I've knocked on the door of is that taxes are too high, especially property taxes. I can't pay it, and the Seattle Budget Office actually did a report about it, and they said the best form of taxation that we could implement that would be the most progressive is something called an employee hours tax, and they did a report on it if you want to read more. And I believe levying that along with capital gains taxes, vacancy taxes would make a actual sustainable solution to the problems that Seattle has with regressive taxation.
Great, thanks. And next is Nilu.
Thank you. I hope my volume is adjusted. Thanks to those who called it out. And thanks, Ty, for texting me or messaging me to make sure I saw it. Yes, we know that Washington State has one of the most regressive tax systems in the United States. And one of the things that frustrates me is tech bonuses that'll pay for a down payment and then you don't have a state income tax. It's actually something that's kind of a selling point for our state. So one thing that I would use in my role on city council, were I to get there, is to help advocate for a wealth tax or really an income tax for the state. And I know that's a legal battle, but I think that anybody in Seattle City Council has a large platform to advocate in that way. Absolutely maintain the jumpstart tax and a local capital gains tax. And knocking doors, so many of our seniors are stressed out, and really everybody, but seniors on fixed incomes are being forced out of their homes. 50% of the Bitter Lake Food Bank is over 50% are seniors, and that's really not okay. And yes, I am a big advocate of land value tax. It's something that in Pennsylvania actually brought down property taxes in some cities. Detroit is looking at it, and there's some really good studies on that. And the policy experts that I've talked to have said it'd be an easier legal battle that would have to happen against Seattle. It should be a leader on these things than, for example, a vacancy tax. So that's something that I would love to do. Would be much more progressive and should bring both open up land for development and help us bring more funds to the city.
All right. And finally, we turn to Shane.
So Seattle's tax structure is aggressive, as everybody said. I'm a big believer in structuring our taxes in a way that incentivize businesses to do what it is that we want. Because in my experience, there's nothing that a business wants to avoid more than paying taxes. So by structuring things and putting in vacancy taxes, putting in windfall taxes, putting in pay ratio surtaxes, which charges tax on individual companies that have a ratio that is beyond $1 to $100 from lowest paid to highest paid. These taxes are built around getting businesses to participate the way that we want them to in our city. And as we have seen with dealing with Amazon, dealing with other companies, they do not want to engage in good faith in this conversation. So changing the way that we outline how we want to tax people, we can designate this is what we want to do and this is why we are doing it. And it gives us the ability to control the conversation in regards to what people have to say about the taxes that we are charging. Because it's not just a discussion about our taxes, it's a conversation about getting the corporations who have been extorting us for years to actually do what they should be doing, which is pay their fair share. We also have serious regressive taxation in the city. And I want to ensure that as we structure going forward and as we start to bring down some of the costs that are associated with homelessness, we use those funds in an effective way to offset our sales and our property taxes to make cost of living for many of the people on fixed incomes able to stay right here in Seattle.
All right, thank you. And the next question is about Mayor Bruce Harrell. What are your thoughts on how Bruce Harrell is doing as Seattle mayor, and what would your working relationship be like with him? And this is a 60-second question, and we will start with Ty.
Thank you. I had higher hopes for what our mayor would look like. And so I think it would be hard for someone with my values to work very closely with the mayor's office, but I also embrace my role as a city council member as being a balance for the mayor, right? I don't think that the city council has to pay deference to the mayor. I think that we can have our own agenda that aligns with our constituents and what is actually evidence-based solutions to our city's pressing problems. The mayor of Seattle has carried out over 900 sweeps in Seattle with record high deaths every single month since he's been in office with nothing to show for it. Our homelessness crisis is worse. There is not a plan to do anything about housing. We are arresting people doing graffiti, which is a waste of our time. We have redirected the police from sexual assaults to sweeps and homelessness harassment. So I consider myself a balancing act. I do not have to work really closely with the mayor. I do consider the council as a place to push back on bad policies from the mayor's office. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Justin.
There we go. Yes, I am excited to work with the mayor as I who is a family friend and hasn't endorsed any candidates for city council races at this point. But as I mentioned before, I think he's been an outstanding mayor, the best we've had in a long time. And I read, emails every day about a new executive order or a new project that he is working on and initiate. So he's not leaving any stone unturned. He's not leaving anything out. He's a hard worker and he's got a good team around him. And I'd like to be a part of that. I certainly admire the work that he's, as I mentioned, doing to revitalize downtown. And to encourage the council to recriminalize to some extent open air drug trafficking, if not drug use.
All right, that's your time.
There we go.
Thanks. Next is Rebecca.
Hey, thank you. Well, like all the capitalist politicians in office, he defends the capitalist system, and I'm for building a movement of the vast majority to overthrow this capitalist system, and that's why I'm running for office, to promote this course that's putting forward this course to reach out to workers and farmers and small business people that get affected, yes, so thank you. I would say one more thing since I have the time. Don't have any illusions that we can win seats little by little, and that's how things are going to change. That's how you get sucked back into the shell game.
Okay. Boegart.
Is Erica still with us?
She's not, but we're going to keep going.
Okay. All right. Overall, I approve of what Mayor Harrell is trying to do for our city. However, it is important that there are checks and balances. It's important that he is being provided with innovation and new ideas and new perspectives. I feel that I would have an opportunity to do that, providing a technological aspect and provide myself as more of a technology consultant to him, just as I do to many of my friends and colleagues and neighbors in D5. I do not think he's perfect. The response to the ice storm was absolutely unacceptable. That should have been declared a city emergency when we had that ice storm, and we need to go forward. I would like to make sure that we have some sort of system so that when something severe like that comes up that is extremely dangerous to life and limb, that people that want to go to work because they can't afford not to work, that they get a paid day off for that city emergency. So I wouldn't agree with everything he does, but I think he's trying hard, and I would try to advise him in technology and on public safety.
Thank you. And I apologize. I got kicked out of my Wi-Fi. So if someone could, thanks, Renee. Next up is Ty.
Lucca.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lucca.
Yeah, I think that I'm under no delusions. The mayor is a thoroughly neutral person. He's done good things, like he's invested in housing. He hasn't put the money to quite the right places or to community-led initiatives like the social housing developer. He passed the levy, the mental health care levy, which is extraordinarily important, and I commend him for that. But also he's kept with the sweeps, which is basically shoveling money into a pit and not solving the problem, just so he can, look good to a whole bunch of, suburbanites. It's really, I would work with the mayor on the things that, I need to, like with remodeling Aurora, working with ASDOT. But I would never vote against my conscience just to fall behind, fall in line with him and go on any party line, because that's not right. That's not the way. That's not how you should run politics.
Thank you. And I apologize again. Is Nilu up next, Renee? Thank you. Nilu, you're up next.
Thank you. I know the mayor has broad support right now, but I see that shaking a little bit because there's a lot of plans to have plans, and that really concerns me. I don't think a sweep policy that is removing people and like I've said many times, this is not a magic trick. When you are shuffling people around, you're like, wow, why are they in Lake City? And I don't think that I'm seeing results that I would like to see. And also, a lot of, let's study this transportation, the Ballard link again, and another environmental impact study, which just drives up costs of our transportation system and doesn't get us what we need. And I want to see leadership around some of the council votes. The drug votes specifically, I think, put a lot of people in the city at odds with each other, and I would have rather seen some speaking from that. But I do want to work with the mayor. There's a lot I want to get done. I thought we had 90 seconds, so 60, I guess. And so yeah, I'm coming from a place of collaboration. So yeah, and grateful for the design streamlined review. Sorry.
Thank you. Next up is Shane.
So Mayor Harrell has been a player in Seattle politics for a lot of years, but that also means he still has to hold accountability for a lot of the poor decisions that have come before him. His pragmatism is too cute by half, and it limits the fact that he spends a lot of time performing social justice without doing anything that's actually just. He's been part of the council when urban villages came into effect, and that has been something that's been deeply detrimental to many of our minority communities, with the fact that they've been displaced and the gentrification has really caused them hurdles. I have no problems, and I look forward to working with Mayor Harrell, but I also recognize that his deference to corporate power and his deference to the police has resulted in many situations that needed to have a much larger voice not being given the due that they deserved. And as a council member, we have to be part of a council that pushes back heavily when we see our communities, especially our displaced and our marginalized communities, not being given the respect that they deserve.
Thank you. Next is Cathy.
Sorry about that. Yes, no, I think that, Mayor Harrell came in at a really difficult time for the city of Seattle. We've been thrown a lot of curveballs with COVID and with the issues of racial justice and reckoning, remote work. I mean, just so many things to have on his shoulders. And I think that he has come in with a vision. He gave people hope. And I think it's incredibly important at this time that people have a sense of hope. I agree with Ms. Jenks that some of that is, there's probably been a honeymoon phase and maybe we're moving out of that honeymoon phase. But I think it's incredibly important that the next council be committed to working with him. We are not going to solve our problems if we are not able to collaborate with the mayor's office. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to always agree with him, or that we're always going to take the vote he wants us to take. But that does mean that we need to keep an open mind. We need to keep open lines of communication and work together. And I'm prepared to do that. Thank you.
Thanks. And finally, ChrisTiana.
What's really interesting about the relationship I already have with Mayor Harrell is that as I started with my first job working in the Office of City Clerk, co-chair Seattle Renters Commission, and co-chair Seattle Disabilities Commission, I've already worked with now Mayor Harrell. I already know his style. Honestly, his so sorry. That's my med alarm. The other thing is I already know his style and I've already worked with his style. It's not really surprising how he's showing up as mayor. We all know the data and he's been here long enough to actually put some of these pieces in place. I feel like there's sort of that chugging along that we are, if anything, perhaps having retrenchment. So I would continue to work with Mayor Harrell the way I always have, which is to hold accountable, stick to my values, and amplify the voices of those most impacted in and outside of the city, because that critical threshold of change is what is most important.
All right, thank you. And I'm going to hand it back over to Sarah.
All right, thank you so kindly. And we're moving along really well. The next question is, how would you work with your colleagues on the council, both those who share your political views and those who hold different political views from your own? And this is a 60-second response question. So Rebecca Williamson, you're first.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think it's very important to defend, the political space and political differences. Totally opposed to canceling out others that you disagree with, and to to have a political debate. And like I said, there's a lot of things that I wouldn't be able to vote for in the city council that would just box working people in from what we need. So that's what I would do.
All right, thank you. And Boegart, Bibby, please, you're next.
I think the fact that I'm a very facts and data driven personality, and I think that would help me work with everybody, because when I do have a superpower, and that is the ability to admit when I'm wrong, change course, and change direction. But you got to show me the facts. You got to show me where your data comes from that backs you up. And by having that open-mindedness, by having that willingness to listen to what everybody's saying and say, okay, this is what you think, this is what I think, here's what my facts tell you. If that is how you build consensus, because when we stick to ideology instead of sticking to what our neighbors feels necessary, communicating why we're doing what we're doing and what we want the council to do, when you collaborate with each other and you get everyone to find that data and agree to it together, that's where you get the collaboration, and that's where you get the cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, Boegart. Lucca.
I think that it's a little bit of a silly question, because it's, well, you have votes that you vote yes on and you vote no on. You vote yes on the votes that you agree with, and you vote no on the votes that you don't agree with. It's about community engagement. It's about bringing the voices of your community into politics and making sure that the best results can be achieved for them. And if that means like voting against my fellow council members, then okay. And if it doesn't, then fine. It's the whole like ideological perspective is sort of just a weird thing to me. I just want to bring as many community voices from D5 into the political process as possible.
All right, thank you, Lucca. Nilu, Jenks.
Thank you. After the 2016 election, I was pretty devastated, especially as my family was banned with the Muslim ban. And one of the first things I did in trying to understand why we couldn't talk to each other was read the book Healing the Heart of Democracy by Parker Palmer. And in it, he talks about holding the tension of the 70% roughly in the middle. He identifies that number by that's the percentage of our founding fathers that signed our Constitution. Disagreement is not new to the United States. Disagreement is not new to the world. We have to be able to talk with each other. And it doesn't mean you land in the middle. It doesn't mean you're a moderate. In a city that is extremely progressive, as been pointed out earlier, we should be able to have conversations with ourselves and our neighbors and our council members, and then carry that conversation to our communities and make sure that we're talking to our constituents, bringing their needs and meeting the needs of the city. And that's how I'm going to lead and work with my colleagues. And if we disagree, we disagree. And I'll push as hard as I can to live by my values and my beliefs. And, you know, I've been authentic in every space and make sure that I get things done for our district.
All right, thank you. Shane Macomber.
So I do also push back on the premise of the question a little bit, because I don't think it is a who holds the same views as you. I have found that working with people that have different views is actually pretty easy as long as everybody is there in good faith. I have found that the biggest hurdle comes from individuals that are showing up with an absence of good faith in the conversation that is occurring, and isolating the individuals that have no intention of being active participants in a healthy way in a conversation are the biggest hurdles. Working with people that have different points of view, I have great success with. It's a good portion of my family voted for Trump. We have had different points of view my entire life. My family is incredibly close because we're able to discuss effectively and authentically the ways that we have different points of view and the way that we can work together to find the solutions that address their needs and also address mine. Working together as a council is about finding the solution that effectively ensures that none of us have to compromise on our ideology while finding a good solution. It's just making sure we're not dealing with people that are there in bad faith.
All right, thank you so much, Shane. Cathy Moore.
Okay, thank you. So I think the main thing is that we have to identify where our common ground lies and what are our shared values, and how are the ways that we can get to point C that remains consonant with our basic values, personal values. But we also have to be willing to listen to one another. You know, I have three sons who are in their 20s, and they have taught me so much. They have opened my eyes in so many ways, and we have to continue to acknowledge that we don't know it all, and we need to be receptive to continuing to learn. In terms of an experience of doing this, I served on the Washington State Board of Governors, where I would say I was definitely the most left and progressive of that group of lots and lots of lawyers, corporate lawyers. At that point, civil legal aid was in crisis. They needed $1 million to fund groups like Northwest Justice Project, Columbia Legal Services. I was able to get that group ultimately to agree to give $1 million of membership dues to support legal aid because we shared that value. Thank you.
Thank you, Cathy. ChrisTiana.
When I started my introduction, I've worked with over 250 organizations as an organizational and policy social equity consultant. What I mean by that is that everything that I have done has been based on creating multiple pathways towards shared goals. What I mean by that is that no one person is going to be able to take one path, nor should they. It's going to be important for us to actually move the progress towards where it is that we actually want to be. And there can often be a through line, at least, that we can have that momentum there. Really, I do believe that there is a period where people will hyper focus on certain parts of semantics as a deflection tactic from moving the progress forward with where we have to go. But I do that with what I call empathetic directness, as well as the toolkit of how I have done this with the city, the state, the county, and various organizations. I think that it's most important to get things done.
Thank you. And Ty?
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. I'm running specifically because of this question, because I am concerned about the ways that council actually does end up coalescing around the middle rather than fighting for things that will benefit the working class people. I think a lot of the answers that you've heard today assumes the best intentions and assumes that we have progressives in office, but I am paying a lot of attention to the races outside of our district, and there are a lot of scarily popular centrist and or right-wing people who are in office that I just don't think we can work with if we plan on also following evidence-based solutions. I think it's hard to make the argument that you're going to do what's right, do what your constituents need, but also somehow work with people who have, diametrically opposed values or views to you. So I, once again, see my position as D5 as fighting for the things people have actually asked for and moving people's constituents rather than focusing so much on the person in office. It's the same strategy that we need to use at the state is the people power actually matters more. We saw with the way that Andrew Lewis changed his vote. If you pressure them, they will change.
All right, thank you, Ty. And Justin Simmons.
Well, I believe I'm a good fit for our district because for all my 20+ years of activism in Democratic Party politics, I do consider myself to be the most moderate candidate in this race. I'm proud to be endorsed by progressives like Washington State Attorney General Bob Ferguson, King County Executive Dow Constantine, King County Assessor John Wilson, present and past council members, business and community leaders, and the Metropolitan Democratic Club of Seattle. Seattle is a compassionate city, but we're a city divided in many ways, important ways about how to solve the interwoven crises facing us. And we need a council member in District 5 with the proven leadership experience, institutional memory, and earned trust to leverage relationships across diverse communities, bring everyone to the table, and work with liberals, moderates, and conservatives alike to achieve real and lasting results. So as a pragmatic progressive who possesses those qualities, I believe I'm the candidate in this race who is most deserving of your vote.
All right. And I'm going to kick off our first and only lightning round. And we're just going to go thumbs up, thumbs down. Strongly prefer you not do the thumbs sideways, wishy-washy thing. So here we go. First question. Have you supported or attended any protests at Seattle officials' homes? I'm seeing a lot of thumbs downs. If anybody has a thumbs up, can you raise your voice? I'm only seeing thumbs downs.
Real quick, you're also talking about like outside of their homes where we know where folks live, like just nearby
Correct.
people's homes. Okay, sweet. My apologies.
All right, and now over to Sarah.
Okay, the next question is somewhat similar. Do you believe that protesting should be allowed at Seattle officials' homes? It looks, oh, okay, we got a thumbs up. Everyone else, or one thumb up, everyone down. Okay.
I think we had 2 thumbs up. I think Lucca and Ty.
Lucca and Ty. Oh, got it. Thank you.
All right, now we have a wonky question. So I'm just going to read the whole thing. So this week, Seattle City Council adopted new rules for council committee meetings that restrict public comment explicitly to items on a meeting's agenda, unless the council member chairing the meeting says that people can comment on additional items or issues and provides prior notice that additional comments will be allowed as part of the meeting agenda. Would you have voted in support of this change? Essentially restricting public comment in most cases in committee meetings to items on the agenda. I'm seeing a no from Nilu, a no from Shane, a yes from Boegart, a yes from Lucca, and a yes from Justin, a no from Ty, a no from ChrisTiana, a yes from Cathy, and Rebecca. I'm not seeing your thumb. Can you raise it higher? Or no vote on that one. Okay, got it.
Allowed. Got it.
All right. And next question is Sarah's.
All right, so this is a 60-second response. What would your priorities be for the 130th, 148th station rezone that is expected to be decided on by the council in late 2024? And the order we're going in, we'll start with Lucca.
Yes, I've been a part of multiple community organizations like Aurora Reimagine Coalition, and I've worked with North Seattle Greenways. And my priorities are to create a affordable climate that people can actually live in North Seattle, and that involves both upzoning and building social housing along 130th Street. I want to connect the future urban village of Pinehurst to the Hallowed Bitter Lake urban village, all along 130th Street, making that a real community center, and instead of just a whole bunch of low density single family houses. And I would also like to make sure that there's lots of bike lanes, especially ones along the disconnected portion of Roosevelt, along 130th Street and along Aurora, as well as 125th Street. So that people can get around east-west via bike routes. I'd also like to see a bus route go east-west from Bitter Lake over to Lake City. Because
Your time, Lucca, sorry.
Just not enough for all the priorities.
All right, thank you. Nilu.
Thank you. I want to see us commit to that light rail station like we've seen Shoreline doing on 145th. We need to upzone, remove height restrictions, have incentives to mass timber, make sure we have busing and biking paths going along 130th to make it a transit highlight point, have mixed use zoning. There's a lot of people knocking doors there that want a coffee shop that they can walk to, and that's going to be important as a place to be, funding social housing. And I'm like, what else do I want there? There's so many things, but basically making it a place that we commit to, and that our light rail station opens and has plenty of housing there. It's going to be an important place, but also, as Lucca said, along the 130th light rail avenue. And I'm excited to see it open. Yeah, I talked too fast.
Thank you, Nilu. Shane, please.
Yes, I can speak to this. This is what I believe to be our single largest impact on District 5 will be over the next 10 years, and I take this very seriously. I will be a vocal advocate for Alternative 6 because I don't think the council's going to get it done before the end of the year, and I believe that developing along our arterials is going to be the most effective way for the city to be able to fund itself in the years that come forward, as those buildings will be effective in actually generating revenue that is important. Focusing on making sure that the density around these areas is commercial, residential, mixed use that have enough height to actually create effective housing, and done in tandem with our social housing developer, will be vital for ensuring that we have cost-controlled housing that is based off of a percentage of income, not off of market rates, which will dramatically improve people's ability to live effectively and afford where it is that they live. They'll be able to live where they work. People will also have effective spaces that get them to and from our transit stations at 148th and 130th, which means access.
We're out of time. Sorry.
Pardon me.
So we have Cathy Moore.
Great. I agree with Shane that this is going to be a fundamental legacy for District 5. And so it's going to be really important that we get it right. At this point, I think I would be supportive of Alternative 5, and we need to look at studying Comp Plan Alternative 6. But I think we need to look at how successful all the upzoning was around the Roosevelt Station, and use that as a model for what we're going to do up there. So make sure we've got a lot of mixed use, a lot of commercial, residential space. We need to have appropriate transit, so lots of bike lanes, and also east-west bus service. In general, we need to have more east-west bus service. And I like the concept of urban villages. We need to make sure that we have plenty of open space. We might need to look at what we're going to do in Tinkins Park. The other and very important thing is to make sure that we have displacement strategies in place so that we are taking care of those people. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Cathy. ChrisTiana.
For most of the time that I've lived in Seattle, I've lived between 105th and 130th. And so one of the biggest things I'm concerned about is displacement and pricing out. We have seen what has happened in other areas of the city when we put light rails in, what happens to the housing, to the prices, and what happens to the community. We need to make sure that is a full front. We also need to make sure that we are actually rezoning into the neighborhood. Oh, and yes, having it close to transit, but this is not the time to only crowd people around transit, as that is just another form of redlining. And finally, I do think it is important that we have accessibility, that we are making sure that we have spaces for folks to grow, that we have complete streets and infrastructure, and that we are able to ensure that our city is going to fully fund this and keep it upright.
Thank you, ChrisTiana. Ty Reed.
Thanks. So the way that I would prioritize any of my transit desires, wants, and needs is funding. There's very little control that council has over SDOT or Sound Transit as much as we'd like to have. So making sure they're fully funded for the project that they have is actually going to be massively important. That's why I think it's really vital that we figure out some progressive revenue to make sure that that shortfall that we're experiencing in 2024, 2025 doesn't end up hurting our homelessness services and our transit services. I agree with pretty much everything everybody said. Of course, we need bike lanes. We need complete sidewalks everywhere. We need east to west service. But I also think, to ChrisTiana's point, that I think is really important and something that I believe in as someone who supports wholeheartedly Alternative 6 when it comes to the comp plan, we cannot continue with the urban village model where we force density around specific areas. Like ChrisTiana said, we have seen the results today. We need for poorer people, low-income people, renters to be able to build, to live throughout the entire city. That means residential neighborhoods. That means by parks. That means in places that are very green without trees. That does not mean always by light stations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ty. Justin Simmons, please. Oh, you're on mute, Justin.
There we go. I was saying that my honorary campaign chair, former Seattle City Council member and Seattle Port Commissioner Peter Steinbrook, whose father designed the Space Needle and saved the Pike Place Market, is a dear friend who frequently reminds me that even as we build more affordable housing, we must bear in mind that the obligation to protect our precious and potentially unrecoverable natural surroundings. As we try to find ways to house our homeless and displaced neighbors, we need to be careful also not to enact policies that discriminate against existing businesses and residents, including renters, seniors, and others who live on fixed incomes. But I support urban planning and development done responsibly, building affordable housing first along dedicated transportation corridors, and then equally and equitably dispersed and shared among all neighborhoods. So again, I agree with what most others have said in terms of the need for sidewalks, for dedicated bike lanes, improved bus service.
All right. Thank you, Justin. Rebecca Williamson.
Hey, thank you. Well, I think the big problems that we face in the whole area in regards to homelessness, drugs, the unaffordability of homes, and working people getting pushed out of the city by these capitalist so-called developers and big landlords. We need a federally funded mass public works program under control of the unions at union scale wages, excuse me, to build all the things that we need, such as affordable and comfortable and quality housing, daycare centers that are affordable, real mass transit that meet workers' work schedules going around the clock, and hospitals, and to maintain these things, roads, things fall into disuse under capitalism. They don't want to maintain it. They want to cut corners, and we see the bridge collapses and
all right,
kinds of.
Rebecca, appreciate it. Boegart, Bibby.
It's true. Density does need to be focused around our transit hubs. Not only do we need to ensure large development that focuses on affordable housing, but infrastructure such as biking and busing that connects our district east and west. Again, by leveraging technology such as AI to model all the various options, since there are a million variables that need to be looked at, and finding the sweet spot for efficient flow of people and businesses and goods and services, we can do this the right way. And we can make sure that we have a better district that is vibrant and that everyone can enjoy. Thank you.
All right, we are on our last question, and thanks to everyone who for hanging in there. I know we got started a little bit late, so we might go a little bit over. So our final question is a closing question, and this is just your opportunity to answer a question that you've heard on the campaign trail that we didn't manage to get to in the forum tonight, or that you haven't heard in other forums and you think should be asked. And we will start with Shane Macomber.
So one question that I hear fairly often when I am knocking on doors meeting with people is, why have things gotten so bad? And there's a lot of people that you can have an articulate debate about. But in my opinion, working in mental health support, working in real estate, having lived in this city for 22 years, people don't feel like there's an opportunity for them to truly succeed in this city anymore. It's too expensive. They don't have a feeling like they're ever going to be able to save enough money to actually have the ability to be comfortable in their lives. They don't have social groups in the way that they used to, because we're working longer hours and getting paid less and receiving a smaller share of the wealth that we are generating, and we're watching it happen in real time. We have an issue of despondency that occurs with a lot of people that are living in the city right now because they do not feel like they are ever going to get ahead. And when they ask me the question, why should I bother following the rules? I've been stolen from my entire life and they don't get in trouble. Why is it a problem for me? It's hard for me to have a specific answer outside of, because we have to do better to increase our ability to hold people accountable for the actions that are occurring. I want to make sure that people know that I am here as an advocate to ensure that the people that are exploiting them are held accountable, and we do better in including people in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we go to Cathy Moore.
Thank you. So one of the questions that I hear a lot of people asking me at the doors is, why do we still have so much homelessness when we have spent so much money? Where is it going? What's happening? And I think, part of the answer to that question is that it took us a really long time to recognize that it truly is an emergency. And it took us a really long time to create the Regional Housing Authority. And now we've seen a lot of growing pains with the Housing Authority. And we need to keep a close eye on how well that's going to work. It's up for renewal in 2025. And I want to make sure that it's actually has measurable targets and that it's hitting those targets. We also need to be very clear about what the barriers are. Recently tried to help two women, one who was pregnant with a 1-year-old, get into shelter. They were on the streets, was told of 211 doesn't provide direct access. It's just a information service. So we need to have shelters that are accessible 24/7. You need to be able to get into a shelter for the night on a Friday after 5, on a Saturday, on a Sunday, and you don't need to have a referral. So there are all these sort of systemic barriers in place that could be easily removed. And we need council members who are committed to doing that. And I am one of those people. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, go to ChrisTiana.
One of the questions I hear a lot on the campaign trail is, well, we've had so many people talk such a good game. How do we know that you're actually going to get the things done? Let me just say, I am someone who has not only knows how to get things done, I have gotten things done. I have not only co-organized for the passage of policies at the city, such as the ban on the minimum wage. I co-organized with that. I co-organized to what would lead up to the 6-month advance notice. I have, as a consultant and as an organizer, have facilitated and worked alongside folks from the county, the state, and beyond on how we create this change. Really what the issue is that we work in silos, we are fractured, and we are too reactive. We need those upstream solutions to effective, collective, and downstream results. It's actually going to get to the taproot of what is important. And that is what I have built my life and career on. I think that in the space, I think what's really important is that it's not just about the knowledge, the academia, or the professional experience. It's about the lived experience and the intersectionality and what it means that I actually live here. Like, I'm a renter. I am someone who has to, a person with disabilities, someone who actually knows what that is like. And I think what's really important about that is folks who know me, know what I am about. One of the things that has been really difficult about this election is that there are different constructions of who I am, but I encourage you that if you do not know who I am and what I'm about, to please reach out to me and to believe that I will be the person who will bring that social change, as I always have done.
Thank you. Next up, we have Ty.
Thank you. Also, congratulations on all these questions. I think they were really dope and they made me think a lot, and I appreciate this question because one of the things that you never get to talk about when you're running for office, because you jump right into politics and policy and ideology, is what does the government do, right? I myself, I position myself as a big critic of the mayor because I have an analysis of government that that puts power where it actually is. I'm a believer that 9 people on the council could pass an ordinance to ban sweeps, but because of the disproportionate amount of power that the executive office has, they will be able to actually carry out whatever they want. That is why we're not seeing progress on any kind of police changes. That's why we're not seeing progress on a lot of housing things when it comes to anything SDOT's doing, because that's under the executive purview of the mayor. That's one of the questions that I get a lot that nobody really answers is like, what does the mayor do? Or what does the council do? Why is the council so bad? And people like to root a lot of the problems going on with the council, which is why you see a lot of talk about divisiveness and why people left the council, when in reality it's a failure of the build of our government, of the very structures of our government, where you have 9 people who can all agree on one thing and they actually have relatively little power to the one person who actually has a lot of executive power. And so one of the things I have enjoyed talking to people about, especially when they talk about homelessness and all of these confusing systems that Cathy was talking about, is who actually has the power to change those. And what you'll find out is, as much as I am obviously running to be a council member and I will do my best to make change possible, we should at least look at the offices that hold the power to make the changes that we're seeing happen in our city. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ty. Next up is Justin.
We all know that Seattle is a progressive city and a compassionate city, but it's not progressive, compassionate, or even morally defensible to allow our displaced neighbors to live unhoused in unsafe and unsanitary conditions in public spaces meant for the enjoyment of all, or to allow young women to be sex trafficked in public at all hours in all seasons amid what is still for many a public health crisis. We cannot continue to simply tolerate a citywide opioid epidemic with open-air drug markets and drug use fueling theft, vandalism, home invasion, and other crimes, while businesses are shuttered or driven out of our city on the heels of renters and homeowners fleeing unaffordable rents and astronomical property taxes. It's a failure of public policy to allow enforcement of the laws on our books to fall by the wayside, effectively throwing our hands in the air and giving up, decriminalizing whichever behaviors we don't seem to have the temporary ability to control. So as a just and kind Seattle, we know that we're better than this, and we need to do something about it. We need to confront the root causes of crime that we've seen since the pandemic, pressuring the city council to follow Mayor Harrell's executive order addressing the opioid and synthetic drug crisis in Seattle. Public drug use, not just drug trafficking, must once again be subject to arrest and prosecution, with prosecution deferred for those offenders who are willing to seek treatment. And the city budget must include and prioritize new treatment and recovery programs that are incentivized and made accessible to all. In District 5, in downtown and throughout our neighborhoods, we need a visible and responsive around-the-clock police presence.
All right, that's time.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Rebecca, and I'll just remind you the question is, this is your opportunity to answer a question that you've heard on the campaign trail that you haven't been asked in the forums yet and you think should be asked. So Rebecca, you are up.
Well, as part of the regular work that my party does around the country and going door to door, we get a response from people, and when we put forward that the low point of labor resistance is behind us. And it's not just the labor issues that I've talked about, but the backbone of the fight in Ukraine, the attacks against Jews that people stand up against, the promotion of drug use by the capitalist class, which we see the marijuana stores and all that stuff trying to keep the working class down, the drug crisis, and how it's tearing apart working class families. And how can we solve these things? Our class has the power to fight and change these things and to change the course of history. It's not the elected officials, it's the working class and our organizations. And it's going to take building a mass popular movement of the vast majority in this country to wrest the power from the capitalist class and establish a workers and farmers government just to begin to solve the problems that we face. We have a wonderful example with the Cuban Revolution that's been advancing for some 60 years. That's an example for the whole world. And that's what my party stands for and what my campaign stands for. Thank you.
Thanks. Next up is Boegart.
The feedback I've gotten from the families and small local businesses I've had conversations with is, how do we restore a safe and affordable community? This is why accountability for City Hall and for individuals with bad behavior are my top priorities. You reduce, and this is a funny thing, you reduce taxes by reducing taxes, which is why we need to audit city expenses and cut wasteful spending. It's also why we need to raise expectations for public behavior. Having zero expectations is actually dehumanizing. And our families and our children deserve a clean and safe Seattle that is affordable for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, we'll go to Lucca.
Yes, I think the question that I hear very often is, and this might have been asked in a previous forum, but it's, why is my housing so expensive? And really, I think the answer to that is a systemic failure by the previous city councils to actually find solutions, and instead sort of put their head in the sand, pretend like moderate lots of little small solutions can actually end up solving a crisis as big as rising rents, rising home prices. And so what and what I'd say to answer that is, and what I do to combat this is that I would like to invest lots into the Seattle Social Housing Developer to make sure that everybody, whether it be people in this call right now, whether it be seniors, whether it be bus drivers, whether it be students like myself, everybody can have affordable housing, and that is probably the biggest crisis that Seattle is facing today. Thank you.
Thanks. And finally, Nilu.
Great, thank you. I was not sure what I was going to say, but I knocked the door today and someone asked me about clean air quality and burning smoke, fireworks. And it also got me thinking about our water infrastructure. A friend of mine lives in Flint, and I've, mailed filters to her and water bottles because their city is not meeting their needs. But the reality is that a lot of infrastructure in the United States is falling apart, and we will continue to see that. And the United States and Seattle is going to have to decide what's a privilege and what's a right. Do we have a right to clean air? Do we have a right to clean water? Do we have a right to housing? What are rights and what are privileges? I think in one of the richest cities, in the richest country in the world, a lot of things are actually rights. And that's why climate change is a huge thing for me. We can't deny people will be moving here. We have to provide housing, and we have to make sure we're building that along with green spaces. We have to support our public transportation system and move away from cars. And already in South Park and Georgetown, they've said that climate change is their top concern over neighborhood safety and crime, and that will continue for the rest of this city. And we have to be future focused. For me, a lot of this is not about privileges. I think air, water, housing, shelter, seniors being able to stay where they lived and work, kids being able to buy where they are rights. And that's what I will fight for. Thanks.
Great. Thank you all so much. And I'm going to turn things back over to Renee to close us out.
Wonderful. And I wanted to first just really thank all of the candidates. This is the third of 3 forums, and it's been absolutely a pleasure to get to know all of you, and I want to thank all of you for your service. To run for office is a huge commitment in your personal and professional life. And I feel like any of you would be a fantastic council member for our district. And I really just appreciate the gift that you're giving us by running. And so I just, and to name call all of you, because I think it's really important, is so Boegart, Lucca, Nilu, Shane, Cathy, ChrisTiana, Ty, Justin, and Rebecca, thank you. And I want to thank Erica and Sarah for facilitating tonight. And I want to thank Di for being the timekeeper for all 3 forums. There was great attendance tonight. There were around 80 people in total on this call. And all 3 of these forums have been recorded, and we're putting them on YouTube. After tonight, I will put this on YouTube. It may give me maybe tomorrow, but I'm also going to put all of the questions that were asked. So everyone can share this with their friends, with their neighbors, for folks to be able to get a sense. If they have the specific question that they want to have answered, they can go look at the questions and then go back and review the video. But really, thank you all. Really, all of us are grateful for your participation. Oh, and one last thing, there were a group of about 20 people in D5 who started last November planning for these forums, and many of them are watching, or they're going to be watching this afterwards. And I just want to acknowledge the work that they've done and the contributions that they've made. So thank you, all of you, and round of applause for you. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.